paint a picture walking into the center, seeing Rebecca or Marianne or Beata, you know, in the front, smiling, running around, getting ready. I had to find the prayer book. It's like I've just lost it. It's so weird. Okay. So what's on people's minds today? What did you bring with you?
There's excitement for the center maybe to become something that I didn't anticipate. It was good news.
Well, I mean, you know, whatever is of most benefit. You know, that's the way to think about, you know, what we pray for, especially if we have a particular thing we're hoping for, is to always put whatever will be of most benefit. You know, if this would be of most benefit, if, you know, finding, you know, or buying a place for the center, if it's of most benefit, you know, we just, you know, want to keep our eye on the long, big picture of, you know, whatever's most benefit of all sentient beings. Otherwise, we get attached, you know. So it's just a way of helping ourselves, you know, with our perspective of just remembering that whatever happens, you know, we want our mental condition to be, you know, always in that place of thinking whatever is of most benefit for all sentient beings or other sentient beings, you know, and letting go of this idea that we know what that is. Because we can get very hooked by the idea of that we know, you know. So anyway, there it is. I found the prayer book. So take a moment to refresh your motivation, our time spent together. And think about why do you care? You know, what is it about a spiritual path that you find beneficial? What is it that you wish for, hope for in your spiritual path? Not from the spiritual path, but from yourself within. What is it that sustains you in your interest in the spiritual path? And then just set the intention that you will try to use your time well this morning in order to get you closer to that wish, to attaining that wish. And if nothing else, may it benefit your mind today and ripple out to benefit those around you. So we'll recite the Refuge Prayer for those of you who are comfortable with, who identify as Buddhist. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. And the four immeasurables. So just imagine yourself surrounded by all the sentient beings. And of course, we literally are surrounded by all sentient beings. That really amazes me. Think about our round planet and the universe. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. I can see all your faces. So we've been talking about, what have we been talking about? We've been talking about the components of the mind that's open to the joy that it always exists. So having a far-reaching perspective, being able to step back and not just respond to things solely from your own, our own little narrow perspective, me and mine. To be able to step back with humility, understanding that we don't have all the answers, that others know more than us, that others have better speech than us, better actions than us. And that instead of responding with jealousy, we can respond with rejoicing in their abilities. And we can respond with aspiration to become more like that. And being able to have the sense of humor, not taking everything so seriously, not taking ourselves too seriously, but being able to be amused by the illogic of the way we think sometimes, and the illogic of our actions that follow from that illogic of thought. And acceptance, just being able to acknowledge what is happening instead of falling back with a mind that daydreams about how it could be if only it was this, or it can't be that. But just acceptance of what is, what has been, without any thought about that. Acceptance means not acting to change things. It doesn't. Acceptance, actually, in order to change things, you really know, you need to know how things are. So when we bring our, self-awareness to our own mental habits and physical habits and speech habits, we need to know where they are in order to make the decision, make the choice, whether or not we're going to strengthen some habits and weaken others, whether we're going to replace some habits with new habits, abandon negative habits. And this takes effort. And in the same way, when we see things that we think need to be changed in our society, in our world, we can act towards that, but we must accept where things are now, and we must accept limitations if we want happiness. If we want wisdom to arise, we can't be hooked by denial. Forgiveness of ourselves and others because of our negative actions of body, speech, and mind. Understanding our limitations, the limitations of others. That we're not Buddhas yet. And then gratitude. Gratitude is like rejoicing. It's really delighting in the good stuff and recognizing how much of the good stuff arises in dependence on the good stuff of others. That we're interconnected, interdependent. And though there is suffering, there is also great kindness, great compassion, great love, great generosity, great patience. And these things have helped us survive. You know? And really being able to rejoice every day in the things that are going well. You know, like, okay, my body still sort of works. You know, whatever it is. You know, so the teachers advise us to, you know, every morning when we wake up, to really be aware, oh, yay, I'm still in this precious human body. You know, I still have arms and hands that are suitable for hugging. We didn't wake up with claws and thorns and all sorts of, you know, porcupine needles. You know, this is good news. So, and it's due to goodness. You know, the teaching cause and effect. We're having these good conditions because of past actions of goodness. So if we want future good conditions or better conditions, you know, we only have to look within and make skillful choices about how we use our body, speech, and mind. Anybody have difficulty with gratitude? Can we all rejoice in our great skill of gratitude? Yay! But do we use it? So that's the thing. We want to make sure we're exercising this skill. We're practicing it. We don't lose sight of it. Because it's so easy to do when we're caught up in self-interest. You know, because self-interest tends to make us focus on, okay, how can I make this better for me? So we want to be aware of how important it is to really acknowledge how dependent we are on other people, you know. Rejoice in the reliability of others. What are ways that we can think about reliability of others? Do, 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 do. Go ahead, Graciela. Jump in there.
Well, I was thinking about I was thinking about presence, and I was thinking that I can miss all the opportunities for gratitude if I'm not present.
Yes.
And that in this impermanent world, reliability seems like this amazing gift. You know,
Certainly can see the disadvantages when things are not reliable. You know, when the postal service, doesn't deliver the mail. You know, when your reliable car doesn't start. And the air condition doesn't turn on. I noticed that really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about the things we depend upon every day, try to think one step further back, all the people involved in making those things happen. You know, one of the good conditions we have is rejoicing in the, you know, that we have water that comes out of a tap. Well, it's not magic. It's work. So, you know. Hi, Melissa.
Hi. Good practice to watch yourself when things are unreliable and see how you start panicking or your mind racing.
So, you know, so that's one of those things that's kind of funny, because one of the ways we could respond to something not working is rejoicing in how many times it does.
Oh, okay.
To really think about, wow, I'm really aware in this moment of how much I rely on this and how most of the time I can. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
You know, there are many places in the world where the things that we've become quite accustomed to are not reliable. You know, that electricity is a very sporadic thing. You know, those of us who have good conditions, like, you know, we have the ability to do these Zoom classes, can be totally, you know, unmindful of the reality that many people couldn't do this, not just in other countries, but in our own country, that people don't have. You know, the internet's not considered a public utility. No. Probably nothing's considered a public anything anymore. I grew up with public everything, you know, the telephones. These were all, you know, things that, you know, that were controlled by the state because they were considered necessities. And of course, not everybody had them even then. So. And so there's so many ways when we feel like the world is just, if we can't get off, we can't just leave this, you know. But we can instead really try to think about, wow, I'm aware of the, whatever it is, the inconvenience, the, you know, the horror of, you know, because usually I don't have to deal with that. You know, that's part of our good conditions of our precious human rebirth. Mm. So we really want to use that knowledge, that wisdom of interdependence to help us have a less narrow perspective so that we don't get bogged down in, you know, our stuff. So that we can always step back, you know, and think bigger than that. And not just dwell on, you know, the bad stuff. You know, where you start thinking, oh, you know, yeah, but the world's such a mess. Yes, it is a mess. I acknowledge that.
But yet there's still people working and with masks on and serving and helping out. And it just, to me, it's amazing.
It is amazing. Well, it's wonderful news. The teachings would say, you need proof of Buddha potential? Mm-hmm. Look around. You know, did you see the, I mean, you know, what is it? I look at Instagram I never did this until, you know, the nieces and nephews started having children, you know, and then I wanted to see pictures of the children because none of us live anywhere near each other. You know. But so during this period of time, I decided to follow, you know, global positive news and good news movement, you know, because it's nice to see stories about Buddha potential, you know, to see all these people who do incredible things for the sake of one other sentient being. You know, I watched one this morning about, you know, the park ranger walking through, you know, waist deep mud to rescue an antelope. Is that a word? Suddenly sounds like fruit. An antelope who was stuck in the mud. And, you know, and it took quite a while to figure out how to even do it. And of course it was risky, you know, but hey, you know, and we can look at that and just say, oh, well, maybe that's just job. You know, we could just be kind of like, yeah, that's nice. But it's so much more than that. And I mean, it's irritating how many posts there are. You know, it's like, where's my niece? Where are the little babies? Because there's so many good news stories. So how silly is that? So if you're like me and those kind of things annoy you, you can just look at them on Facebook instead, because they're all there too. But the point is, when we're faced with something, you know, whether it's something that's we're usually able to depend on and now we can't, you know, in that moment, it's not working, or we're with, you know, with someone we consider difficult or a difficult situation, all those things, you know, it's so important to kind of be amused if we're freaking out, you know, and, you know, or just like, so frustrated or so annoyed, you know, and to step back and be kind of amused because all these other good things are happening too in that same moment. It's just your moment's not so hot in that moment. You know, but most of the time, things are great in terms of reliability. And we have a lot of, you know, we control a lot of what we're exposed to because of our good conditions. We can choose. We have the advantage of choice about who we hang out with, what we watch, whatever. We have just tons of resources. You know? And so one of the reasons that there are times where we find people difficult is simply because we don't have to put up with that if we don't want to. You know, we don't try. So what other ways? What other things like reliability can help us have gratitude? What other kinds of things can play into that?
Maybe listing what you're grateful for, or even difficult times and what you got out of that, or difficult people and how you got through it.
Yeah, I do think it can be very helpful to look at all those past very challenging times in your experience and pull out of those experiences things that you learned or gained, or know that you wouldn't be the same person without, and you're glad that you're the person you became.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that can be helpful. Yes, Francesca. You need to unmute, please.
There you go. Maybe having expectations of perfection.
How does that help with gratitude?
Not having expectations.
We have to be precise, don't we?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So when you just think that everything's supposed to be a certain way, because it's, it's the way you expect things to be, like your expectations of how it should be, and just be more accepting of the fact that things aren't really perfect.
well, what's really wonderful too is about the fact that we have expectations shows you how reliable things are. Our expectations kind of highlight how good or bad our conditions are.
That's true. Yeah. Never thought of that.
So, these are ways in which we can really try to, this is again perspective, just being able to recognize that it can be greed that is, we have to be careful of, that reducing our greed can help us with our forgetting how good we have it. Because if we allow ourselves to be sort of on that roller coaster, where we're good as long as everything's kind of going our way, going in the direction we want it to. But then when it isn't, that we just, completely fill ourselves with whatever it is, frustration, indignation, resentment, all of those things. So this is again, it's why equanimity towards external things is so important. Equanimity is important, period. But, this ability to develop a mind that is able to be calm no matter what is happening. Calm, both for the good stuff and for the bad stuff and all that in between stuff. Knowing that our inner state does not have to be defined by our outer state, because it actually isn't. We just think it is. How can I be happy if nothing's going my way? Well, you could be happy for all the people where things are going their way.
If I may,
yes, please, Roxy.
One more thing, and thank you so much. What I do is if I feel a certain pain or certain discomfort arise, I try to set myself up with at least an hour a day. And during that hour, I just put everything in a box. And it's just me time not to think and be very present. And that has been helping me so much, just to put that space there. If ever you're just sitting in it, just get out of that.
And this is where mindfulness is so helpful. If the idea of mindfulness of one thing at a time is so restful. We don't realize just how much effort we expend with all the conversations in our heads, all the worries, all the to-do list, all the what ifs, all these different versions of our conversations. And if you just focus on what you're doing right now, whatever that is, how much more energy you have. It's a much more peaceful way to exist. And since we really can't do more than one thing at a time, sure, we can talk and look at the same time, But it's hard to, listen and do anything else except look. If so, it's just these, if we just accept, okay, what I'm doing right now is listening. I don't need to be making lists. I don't need to be coming up with what I'm going to say. I don't need to, we have to be aware, of course, we're aware of our bodies. We're aware of where we are. This helps us function.
You have to not identify with that.
Right. It's that, of just being present with, okay, what am I doing now? Oh, I'm reaching for a glass of water. This is what helps. This is part of why mindfulness is a great stress reducer. But of course, we don't just want to be mindful of drinking a glass of water. We want to have, we want to be able to use the calm that arises from being able to be mindful in ways that help us cultivate our strengths, our good qualities, and help us abandon the stuff that gets in the way, the stuff that is just going to lead to suffering, the stuff that just leads to harm. Because if we're aware of what we're doing from moment to moment, it's very hard to hide from yourself and not recognize when you're about to say something harmful or hurtful, do something harmful or hurtful, or mindlessly, kind of thing. So it increases our opportunity for choice. If we just keep waking up, and then as soon as we enter into whatever it is, okay, now it's cooking breakfast time, and we just put ourselves on remote control, we're just pushed around by our habits that we already have established. And if we're trying to change those habits, you're not creating the space to do that if you're just relying on, this remote control we have, this automatic behavior. Like, all the times that you've driven somewhere and you can't remember the drive at all.
And most of the time it's an illusion as well, right?
It's like an illusion.
Like our thoughts are often faulty, not.
Well, our thoughts are often mistaken. According to the teachings, all of our conceptions and all our perceptions are mistaken with respect to how things appear. Things appear to us as inherently existent, and we believe that. And it's not true. Most of our thoughts, or all of our thoughts, we make up, they're our thoughts. So we generate them. So they're our perspective. And often they don't accurately reflect the object that we're thinking about. So it's like an illusion. The appearances of things are like an illusion because we have our ignorance superimposes on top of things an existence that's impossible. It ignores the impermanence of everything.
And I think we're taken there often because of fear.
Of course. But that's a different topic than the one we're on today.
Right.
Yes. And part of it, though, is the same idea that we are not dealing in how things are. Our fear of how things might be often control what it becomes the condition for us trying to like manipulate things, to have it go a certain way. And then we're not even aware that we're doing it because our fear is so strong, we cannot allow ourselves to see it. That's what we think. We think that, oh, I have to do this and it has to happen this way, has to unfold this way. Whereas if we stay open with our perspective, with our humility, with, all these other qualities, then, we can discover what opportunities are available from moment to moment because we're open to them. So we can recognize, those opportunities as opposed to being on this, like, oh, no, I'm this is the only thing that can happen. It must happen. We don't even notice what is happening, And in that way, we create in our minds a world that doesn't exist at all. The way we judge others, judge events, judge all sorts of things, as if we actually know what's in the mind of others, as if we actually know what each event is going to result in the future. Whereas that's why the exercise of writing down all the difficult times in your life and pulling out what turned out to be a positive. Not that you go back there and experience it again. It's just understanding that within all circumstances are opportunities to develop our good qualities. And in fact, we can't develop our good qualities without, there being a lack in a situation. That's what good qualities are. You need help. We notice that our kindness, our compassion, our generosity arises. And so when things happen to us where we feel we're the wounded one, we're the ones in the midst of our suffering, that's our time to be able to recognize, self-compassion, and also that you're not the only one who feels that way. Not even, in your lifetime, but in this moment. There are other sentient beings right now who are suffering in the same way you are, with perhaps different conditions. So we can be, in those moments, we can also be grateful for what is available to us to help. So let's, why don't we break up into groups and, everybody just take turns thinking about different ways in which you can, what gratitude means to, how you can expand this idea of gratitude, or what questions you have about it. And try not to get off topic, but just, this, what is it that gratitude can give us, and where can we look for it that we normally don't? Does that make sense? Okay. Tali, can you do your magic?
I'm afraid I'm not sure how to do that. So let me.
Okay. Participants.
Just go to participants and.
No.
Are you trying to break us into breakout rooms?
Yes.
There, if you scroll to the bottom, there should be an icon for breakout rooms.
because she's a host.
She's a host, yeah. It should appear for her screen. Maybe next to, do you see the reactions icon?
Yes.
And there's nothing next to it?
There, it just says more.
Hit more.
Yeah, I did. It's just about the recording. I don't see on my screen, I'm sorry, anything about breakout rooms. I'm used to using Teams, but I don't see it here.
And I don't think I'm a host.
Yeah.
It says here that you were a co-host.
Yes, I saw that. Venerable Tendron, you were made a co-host.
And
But
Nicole is also host, but I'm not sure if she's available right now. So I apologize. I don't see that breakout feature here.
Yeah, maybe co-hosts don't have the ability to do that.
Right,
Only
it may just be the
primary
host. Yeah. Okay. Scratch that plan. Okay. So what are some obstacles to gratitude in your own mind? You know, what do you think? You know, most of us, you know, if someone brings up the word gratitude can, you know, on most days can come up with a few things to be grateful for. But do you value gratitude?
One of the obstacles is self-pity. Feeling sorry for yourself, that's a big obstacle. And that stands in the way from you making your little gratitude list. Because there's always somebody out there in far worse shape. No.
Yeah. This is why I like listening, you know, to the news. Is it really helps broaden my compassion and this, you know, recognition that, oh, you know, so, you know, it's hot, big deal. You know, look at other people's conditions, you know. So it's just this, it's this way of remind, you know, like a slap in the face, like grow up. don't feel sorry for yourself. You have it so good. I have it so good. You know, so being able to be in tune with that. Bobby.
An obstacle for gratitude, what I've seen is the lack of hardship, the experience of hardship, i.e. very young people who may have a very luxurious life, in my view. The problem isn't the same as someone who might have grown up in a third world country without running water. The big catastrophe might be
okay, but we can't, let's not talk about other people.
Right, okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So the obstacles are entitlement and not having, forgetting what we didn't have, or forgetting our experience of hardships and taking things for granted.
Yeah, this taking things for granted, the self-pity mind, the, you know, this forgetting about, this is why the meditations on precious human rebirth are so important, to really recognize just how good our conditions are. Because relative to other human beings, you know, there are countless sentient beings who cannot do what we can do because they do not have the resources. Yes, Deborah.
I've generally always found it really easy to be grateful for the obvious things. You know, I'm grateful that both of my parents are living. I'm grateful that my kids are alive and well and happy. Those are, to me, the obvious big things. But I liked what you said earlier, to be grateful for the things that we just sort of take for granted. I'm so grateful my refrigerator works and my air conditioning works and I have food in my fridge and I have a bed to sleep on and my sheets are clean, and really trying to cultivate being grateful for all of the things in my world that I take for granted I've always had a habit whenever I've gone away and been on vacation and been in a hotel. When I leave the hotel room, I always thank it. I don't know why, but I've always done that. I thank the hotel room for allowing me to stay there and providing me with a nice place to be. But I need to expand that. So I appreciate you bringing that to my forethought. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the thing, isn't it? You know, the wonderful thing, and this is all these things we experience are the result of many hands, you know, many thoughts, ideas, inventors, people who follow through on their ideas. They're not just idea people, but they're idea people with legs that make it happen. You know, so it's this, you know, this, and it's, you know, it's like we don't want to just be cursory about it. If that, I don't think I'm using that word correctly, but anyway, it's, you know, we want to really let it into our hearts, you know, where we really have an experience of appreciation for, you know, the resource itself and all the beings that are involved in having that resource, you know, arise. So, and the good news is we're one of them. You know, we create the cause to have the experiences we have. So it's not a way of, you know, always putting ourselves like, I'm, you know, we're part of this dependent arising of cause and effect. So just in the same way, when the refrigerator doesn't work, we're one of the causes involved in that. We are also one of the causes when it does, you know? So it's just, it's this, but so many beings are, you know, you know, maybe in the frontier days, it'd be harder to get this, you know, because, you know, there you are with you and your family and trying to, you know, cut down the trees and build the house and, you know, not die from an infection and blah, 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 you know. But nowadays, it is quite obvious how dependent we are on countless beings. And of course, even when we're alone, you know, even that hiker out in the woods, you know, miles away from anyone, is dependent on all the things they learned from others in order to be able to have, you know, a good day. All the knowledge they have about how to be safe, how to walk safely, all the things that they're wearing that help, you know, all the supplies they brought with you because they learned that these are needed. So all of these things, you know, we just simply, and it's not a bad thing, you know, it's something that can support us when times are hard, to know that there are countless beings out there that are helping us directly, indirectly, you know. And so every day we go to work, and when we don't like our jobs, we can think, well, I am participating in this community of effort. You know, this is how the world goes round. You know.
Can stinginess and judgment be an obstacle to gratitude?
What do you think?
I think so.
In what way?
Because well, judgment, you're setting the limits of something that it might prevent you from being grateful. So if you judge someone as, oh, so difficult, and then you're not grateful for their presence to teach you or be a teacher of patience or not getting angry.
And all the other things perhaps that they do.
Uh-huh.
They go unnoticed because it's not irritating you.
Right. Right. And
yeah. Stinginess.
Stinginess is like there seems to be a flow when you feel grateful. You want to give, but well, I don't think I thought that through.
You know, it's very interesting to look at the list of who we should be generous to.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the list, according to the teachings, it's pretty much everybody, and certainly anybody who asks. It's so interesting, you know, it's not based on whether they need it or not, whether, you know, they deserve it or not. It's that anybody, you know, who asks for something is your opportunity to practice generosity. You know, so it's, and, you know, when you think about it, what stops us from doing that is judgments. Oh, they're not deserving. Oh, I won't like the way they use this. Oh, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's one thing when wisdom gets in the way, where you think, you know, that I can't afford to do this, or blah, blah, blah. But it's really, you know, we have such narrow perspectives. And so it's worth looking at those things. It's like gratitude. If we don't, you know, understand just all the ways we can be grateful, then we kind of shortchange ourselves. You know, we don't recognize opportunities to be grateful for things that just seem routine. You know, that just, of course, you know.
And there again is the fear that's limiting.
Yes.
Or, yeah, limiting gratitude.
And it's funny because gratitude is a mental thing. It's an inner state. You can't go, yes.
I thought Roxy had her hand signal on, number one. And number two, Nicole did make me host. And now I do see the breakout room feature. I didn't know if you wanted us to break out or just continue the main discussion.
We can break out, give you a chance to have little conversations and more in depth. So remember to take turns, you know, to let everybody speak, and keep it to the topic of gratitude and how can we broaden our opportunities for gratitude, you know, like looking at reliability a different way, you know, those kinds of things. Okay. Does that make sense, Francesca? You on board? And it worked. Thank you.
She did a great job.
Cool.
Yeah, I just forgot to ask Venerable how much time and maybe 10 minutes was not enough. So
No, 10 minutes is good.
Okay.
10 minutes is good. So we talked a little bit in our group about entitlement and about, you know, the difference between understanding that, you know, that our gratitude does not have to be expressed. You know, it's an inner attitude. So the first thing is just to allow ourselves to have gratitude arise, discover the many ways in which, many opportunities in which we can have gratitude, but it doesn't mean we have to express it. Sometimes our conditions aren't such that expressing gratitude is helpful or useful, you know, and can be counterproductive if it's always shot down. So. But, and did anybody come up with ways that you can bring gratitude in your daily life?
Well, Francesca had a question she thought that should be presented to you.
So, go for it. So
yeah.
You're the speaker.
Go ahead, Francesca.
Thank you, Marianne.
Marianne brought this up, by the way, so I don't know why she did.
Whatever.
Okay, so I think this is how it went. So you might have to help me, Marianne. Is that, you know, gift giving, when you give and receive, and how some people are okay with giving, but they're not in receiving, and being grateful for any gift you receive is important. And, you know, some people, even though they don't like to receive gifts.
Are we talking about others?
Well, we talked a little bit about ourselves.
Yeah, let's stick to, that's a very important distinction. Talking about others does not help our minds. And they're not here to have it transform their minds. The only thing we can do is work on our own minds. Worrying about other people's minds is not our problem.
Right. Okay. So when someone gives you a gift, to just be grateful.
Well,
being more
whatever
grateful if you can, you know,
Yes.
receiving, learning how to receive.
Yes, some of the ways we block gratitude is by not being willing to receive help, receive gifts, receive, support. Yes, absolutely. So we want to see that in ourselves. It doesn't mean that every person that doesn't receive something gracefully or gratefully is faulty in that way, because there could be some other part of the story we're not seeing, so because we also know, yes, Deborah.
I think that's an interesting point, because I feel that in general, in our culture, it's promoted when somebody is offering something, whether it's tangible or intangible, to say, oh, no, you shouldn't have, no, it's okay, no, and push it away. And I feel like that's promoted in our culture rather than the art of being grateful for receiving, which is interesting.
Yeah. And so that's an example of a way in which sometimes we have to choose. Are we going to follow the culture we're in? Or are we going to understand the culture as just a part? We have to just, be very aware, of what we're doing. But but when gratitude arises, there's just an appreciation arises. There's, that there's benefit to ourselves for feeling that. For being, it can be joyful. Yes, Anthony.
I was just on Deborah's point. Whenever I go out to dinner with people, they offer to pay, I don't combat. I give them the opportunity to practice generosity right away.
Can I take you out to dinner?
She says, "Why do you do that? You're supposed to counter." I said, "No counters." And
Okay.
when I offer once, if they say no, it's theirs. But if Frank doesn't mind me sharing, in terms of ways we could practice gratitude or ways to help, is he mentioned how he's a teacher, and from his students, they teach him so much. So I think each individual student probably has their own unique perspective. So going with that attitude that anyone you can encounter in your workplace can teach you something is helpful. Especially for me, I think the biggest obstacle is when I get busy, I get absorbed in what I'm doing. So if I'm going to be absorbed with remembering that there's people I'm interacting with, and perhaps that gives me the opportunity to practice gratitude in a way that's not, forced per se or awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, I encourage people to consider trying to set an intention when you're starting a new activity. Like right now, we might not be driving to work or going to work, but you might be. And it's really nice to pause in the parking space and think, okay, now I'm going to work, and have a moment of setting an intention about, what do you want to practice that day? And then think about the fact that you are part of a team, that you work with other people, whether it's, literally that you have coworkers, maybe you're a boss, or maybe you work alone, but in some way your work affects others, so it's an opportunity to have gratitude that, it is because others need us to do work that we have work. To have gratitude for our opportunity to participate in the greater community, and feel useful and be useful. And that, we want to bring to it a mind that wants, that is, not so caught up in what does it mean about me, but how can I make this, a better company, a better product, a better experience for the people I'm interacting with, make it part of humanity, not just a product, not just, and also productivity is better when we feel connected, This is the thing, is all the research shows that the more we are connected to others, the more that we, this all improves our ability to function well. So taking that time to set our mind in a particular direction is extremely helpful to ourselves and others. Every time you eat, I love thinking about how, when you eat, you have to go back, like thousands of years for the reasons why you have that food. Anything that's a crop, you have to have seeds. People have to protect seeds. It's like, I remember, Prince Edward Island, their crop are seed potatoes so that other farmers can grow potatoes. They're the potatoes that seed fields for potatoes. Don't ask me how that works because I don't understand it. But and people thought up these ideas and they experimented and they tried it out. And this is how we have food in the way we have food today. It is like unbelievable how much goes into a plate of food. And then all the positive, if you look at karma, if positive actions yield positive results, generosity yields resources, then, when we have an abundance of food, it is due to not only our, having created a cause, but all those people along the way who had water for their crops, who had, the nutrients in the soil, that had the seeds, all of those things, that is all the result of their positive actions in the past. All the good stuff that happens in the world is the product of positive actions in the past. And so we're all dependent on these things. It's not just, it's not just us alone, individual. No. So it's this, so just a simple act of eating that we do every day, you can usually, you can allow it to become a moment for gratitude. And amazement for that matter. It's like amazing. Whenever you, like Frank is saying, whenever you meet someone, this is an opportunity for you to learn from them. This is a human being or an animal being, that has feelings, that has compassion. It's really amazing to watch, to read studies on compassion for animals and humans and babies. It's really remarkable. So, these are ways, when we recognize, oh, I'm getting in the way of my gratitude, my focus on the negative stuff, my focus on how did that not work for me today, whatever, we can turn it around and make that a condition for gratitude, So it's, so whenever anything's not working, we can go, oh, just think how lucky I've been all the times it worked. I can tolerate this, whatever, inconvenience, this discomfort for this time that it didn't work. May it only not work for me. It's really because it's all about changing the way we talk to ourselves, trying to replace habits which focus on things that aren't helpful, that are not skillful. It is more skillful to focus on, what is good, how we can benefit, how can we turn this into an opportunity to help ourselves and others. And there's literally no condition that isn't a condition to help us with our minds. So how cool is that? It's like, oh, yay. So, You know, think of it that way. You know, if we can train ourselves to respond to complications, difficult inconveniences, all that stuff as, wow, this is an opportunity for me to become a kinder, more patient, you know, easygoing person. You know, how great is that? Yesterday, I had no opportunity at all because everything went well. I mean, it sounds silly, but that's literally, if you look at our negative minds, that's sort of what they're doing. They're constantly like, you know, poor me, this shouldn't be happening, blah, 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 blah. You know, how could it happen now? Why does it have to happen now? This is the most possible inconvenient time in the history of time that this could break. You know, we're ridiculous, you know. You know, so we can choose to have an opportunity of feeling lighter about things. And this keeps our heart open to joy, because gratitude's a form of joy. It's delighting in the good stuff that we have access to. And then we make a wish that everyone have access to it. And then we can make the wish, oh, may I be a part of helping everyone have access to it. Even if it's just a wish in the mind. Okay, so how we doing? Did Nicole leave any announcements? Are there any announcements? Let's see, Tuesday night.
I don't have any.
She didn't? Okay, Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, I start the text 7-point mind training. It's a, I wouldn't call it an advanced teaching, but it can be, it's a direct teaching. To give you an example, you know, it's like a list of slogans to remind yourself, okay. And since when I discovered the Dharma, I was not a very nice person. It was really a helpful list to me because it you know, it said things like, you know, don't strike at the heart, don't lie in ambush, don't, you know, because you know, I wasn't a nice person, so I needed these tips. So if that's something that sounds maybe useful to you, and I'm sincerely hoping it wouldn't be, but you know, it's I find it a very, you know, if you're tired of all the flowery language, you just want a to-do list, this is a to-do list or a to-not-do list, you know. So but it's one of my favorite teachings, and maybe it's just because it's the first one that really hooked me. So
and Rebecca has sent the link to those of us who've registered. She sent us a link to get a copy.
Oh, yes. So there's a text for it if you want to go there. There are also some free texts you can download from Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. So anyway, but join us if you're curious or have time.
So we have to re-register, right? Get a new number?
Yes, it's a new class. It requires a new registration to get the link.
Okay. Thank you.
And Thursday night is continuing with Nick Rebush. And that's all and then, you know, Sunday as usual. So that's all I know. Okay. So I hope you all have a meaningful week and may your mind, you know, may you be aware of your mind. No expectations, just be aware.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's recite our dedication prayers. So let's rejoice for a moment of all the efforts we've made this morning. You know, that hopefully are placing positive potentials on our mind stream that will ripen as positive resources in the future. And we don't want to be miserly with these potentials. So we want to give them away to benefit others. And this is just practicing the mental attitude of generosity so that we can prepare our minds that the moment an opportunity arises to help someone else, we're ready to do it. We're delighted to do it. So, and also keep in mind, all the people suffering at the current time from, this pandemic, from the wars, from earthquakes and storms and wildfires and, the countless different ways, the elements, we're vulnerable to the elements and the countless different ways we harm each other, and just, the sufferings of the body, all of that. And keep those in mind and helpful, and make the wish that they be free of their suffering quickly. So, may all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments, whatever diseases there are in the world. May they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then we'll recite for the long, healthy, happy life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and the land encircled by snow mountains, who are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Sik Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And for our spiritual director, teacher of all these FPMT centers, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long.